So, we're finally here. It's time to bundle everything together in the finale. Hey Sparrow, hey everyone, nice for you to join us. So first, a very quick recap. Our story is completely arbitrarily set in a cyberpunk-style universe. Our party of heroes, champions and paragons have been approached by Intron Corporation to deal with a theft. Some of their technology, known as Signogene, had been stolen, and they want it back, or at least destroyed. You see, Signogene, in the wrong hands, has the potential to be a very dangerous weapon of a particularly cynical nature. Mallory Court, the executive who hired them, introduced them to Jack Gunn, a security officer, and they may or may not have made much use of his services throughout the game so far. Upon investigating, the heroes, champions, paragons found that the thieves were aided by an Intron employee called Ramirez. Following that lead, they eventually tracked down the group behind the theft, a capitalist terrorist organisation called F3. Now, F3 had a two-part plan. At a secret factory, they were manufacturing more of the Signogene material to offer to the highest bidder, and at the same time they were planning a demonstration for marketing purposes, using some of the material they captured to launch an attack on a trade show. Yes, I'm sorry, my camera does appear to have frozen. I'm not entirely sure why. And this attack at the trade show would kill all Intron employees in the area and leave everyone else unscathed. A very useful demonstration of the capabilities. Last time, the heroes, etc., found the factory and dealt with it, but they learnt of the upcoming attack on a large convention centre where F3's shadowy leader, Cassandra, is aiming for all her plans to come together. The clock is ticking, and they have to race to the final act. So, the conference centre. But as we go, we have to care about some core principles. Success and failure are hinged on this event. It is the fulcrum of the entire story. Just because it's a boss fight, it doesn't mean there aren't more narrative options to come. And the stakes must be higher than ever before. So with those in mind, we need a map of the conference centre, and for map, read model, diagram, whatever. It's a hotel with a large hall attached, the hall being filled with various stands and exhibits from technology companies. It's cyberpunkish, remember, so make sure it's high-tech, but it's also going to provide a tremendous selection of pieces of cover, lots of NPCs, and some complexity of the design of the building around it. The convention is called Super Biotexpo, because it is, and it's being held at the Radiant Sunset Hotel and Convention Centre. So, first up, this time I'm not going to go into insane detail about the actual sequence of events, because we've done a lot of those already, and we don't need to do the same thing every time. No, this time we're going to talk about the end of the narrative, the conclusion and the true player agency. The point where they get to make all of the final decisions, and those choices aren't a headache for the GM anymore because the story is finishing. There's no upcoming fallout where the players are messing up the future plans you've carefully squirreled away, because there are no future plans. So first, the basic framework. We have an unseen boss, villain, Cassandra, and her minions, launching an attack against Intron and the local manager Mallory Court. Court is able to make use of the regular police, perhaps Intron security as well. We know that Intron security will be next to useless in this specific case, but the players might be unaware of that depending on whether they've learnt the details of the Signogene attack, or if they used Intron people in the factory assault, where their limitations might have become abundantly clear. There's a ticking clock on this mission, because the attack will go ahead unless it's stopped. Our heroes have to use all the information they've discovered about the attack, and they have to thwart it. Or, right at the beginning, 6 episodes ago, I did say that there are other, shall we call them, alternate endings. I hadn't forgotten. In fact, I've set up this entire story so that there will be an absolute forest of alternatives to choose, each with different outcomes based on player choices and on the roll of the dice. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Not after 7 episodes of explanation. It would be cruel. But before I explain the choices, there's a little piece of information I've been concealing from you right from the start, even though I was freely showing you how everything was built. You see, I always knew that you, if you were constructing this story for your own group, that there would be a possibility that your group would feel much more sympathy for the terrorists than for the faceless Intron Corporation. It was always possible that they would want to join the terrorists, in other words. So, if they did that, then they concentrate on keeping Ramirez alive, perhaps. The bar becomes an information-gathering exercise, the factory is somewhere they defend from Intron security, if they manage to get on the inside of the F3 group. If you remember, Cassandra, leader of the terrorists, wasn't at the factory. In fact, they've yet to meet her. And that meeting, whether they're aiming to join her band of outlaws or take her down on behalf of Intron, must be momentous. But wait, because it can't be momentous in both cases, right? I mean, she's the final boss, so if they follow their instructions and defeat her, it's really easy to have a massive final battle. But if they choose to sign on to her way of thinking, the final boss fight is a what? A meeting? A chat about future plans? Somehow that seems to lack drama. But not necessarily. You see, if we imagine that the final boss fight was actually between Court and Cassandra, with the players not even present, if both of these important NPCs were in the same room, well, there wouldn't be enough people for a game of chess. Mallory Court and Cassandra are the same person. Now, Intron is obviously unaware of this. Gunn, the security chief, is unaware of this. Court's big ambitions. She's arranged to advance them for this group of people, the players, to succeed or fail very noisily in their attempts to save Intron from the consequences of their incompetent security arrangements. Either way, the police investigation will be more than enough publicity to replace her modest corporate pension plan with a massive bioweapons deal. Okay. Now, it really matters if the players chose the other side. I mean, either way they're working for the same woman, but if they destroyed the factory, she'll have to start over with some of the materials safe in the laboratory. On the other hand, if they've saved the factory, either by defending it or concealing its very existence, Court is likely to welcome them into her inner circle. She might be in it purely for the money, but she's perfectly happy to take down the power of a giant corporation on the way. Or 2, or 3 giant corporations, come to that. Now, depending on what happened before the convention centre and what happens moment by moment in the convention centre, the players have every possible outcome entirely in their hands. Just make sure that at the exact moment the attack is due to launch, Mallory Court is suddenly needed elsewhere, maybe back at the office. Some filing needs to be done. Hopefully the players will work out that she couldn't possibly have known that timing unless, well, you know. Even if they've told her the attack has been thwarted, she can't take the chance, because if even a little of the toxin gets out and the Intron people become even a little sick but not dead, she couldn't explain how she was unaffected, and naturally she's arranged for her own tagging to be altered for safety. So if the players went with Intron, they may or may not succeed in stripping the Signagene chemical attack away from the convention centre, or they might evacuate the building itself, or both. Either way, they might or might not uncover Court's part in the attack. And in addition to suddenly having to leave the building at a critical moment, there have to be a few other ways to unmask her. After all, the players might evacuate the building anyway, so she doesn't reveal her involvement through her actions. But she will be in contact with the terrorists. So any communications device from a captured or killed terrorist that used to call Cassandra or track its signal electronically will lead straight to her. And I'm sure you can think of other ways to make the reveal happen, but they'll be heavily dependent on the choices the players make and the skills they have. As long as you know the secret and there are ways to get there, the players might well work it out. But they don't have to. They might stop the attack, collect their fee from Court, and ride off into the sunset, blissfully unaware of her involvement. And that's fine too. Now, if they decided to side with the terrorists, it's possible they made sure that the attack actually went through. Then they might have noticed that Court was miraculously a survivor. If not, there's plenty of space for an epilogue, in which they're promised the chance to meet Cassandra. In this case, however, if they haven't worked it out themselves, stop the story before the meeting. End it in the chaos of the convention centre, with the cryptic invitation from Cassandra waiting for them. Only if they actively track the signal again or work it out through other clues do they get that final piece of the puzzle, because they must be rewarded for their alertness in that very busy and complicated final act. So there you go. That's how to tell a story in the way that makes it work for an RPG, or at least one of the ways. And next time I'm going to take a completely different kind of story apart, and we'll see where that